Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you're curious about, dig in, and pull out the key insights, basically helping you get informed without having to do all the heavy lifting yourself.
And today, we're looking at someone pretty fascinating, Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, but also the author of this incredibly personal work, Meditations.
It really is a surprising combination, isn't it? A guy born way back in 121 AD, powerful family, connected to Rome's earliest history.
Right, holding all this immense power. Yet what really lasts are these philosophical notes he wrote mostly to himself.
Exactly. And this deep dive is really for you if you want to get the core wisdom of meditations quickly, but, properly. Consider this your fast track to some really practical ideas for everyday life.
And what makes it so powerful, I think, is that it is so personal. These weren't speeches or essays for everyone. They were his own thoughts, his reminders.
That's such a key point. It's not like other works trying to teach the public something specific. Meditations feels like you're looking over his shoulder at his private journal.
Yeah, there's this real sincerity there. He's not trying to impress anyone. There's no malice. You just get a sense of this very thoughtful, very calm mind.
And think about his life. Adopted by the Emperor Antoninus Pius, steeped in Stoic philosophy, that whole focus on resilience, simple living.
Plain living, hardihood, yeah.
But then, boom, he's the emperor, dealing with wars, running the empire, all that pressure.
It's a real paradox. This apparently gentle, peace-loving guy leading this massive empire during really chaotic times.
He actually wrote the first book of Meditations while he was out on campaign, just before battle, which just shows, his ability to find that inner quiet, even when things outside were pretty intense.
Amazing, really.
Okay, so let's get into it. How did he actually approach learning from others?
Well, what's really telling is how book one starts. It's not him laying out his grand ideas first.
No, it's not.
It's him acknowledging everyone who influenced him. He lists specific people and the exact virtues or lessons he got from them.
It really drives home that idea that wisdom isn't built in a vacuum, right? It comes from those around us.
Precisely. He credits his grandfather, Verus, for teaching him gentleness, meekness, basically how not to fly off the handle.
Right. And from his father's memory, shamefastness, he calls it, and man-like behavior, kind of like integrity, strength of character.
Yeah, fortitude. And his mother taught him religiousness, bountifulness, generosity, and how to avoid even thinking bad thoughts. Plus, a simple diet, avoiding luxury.
He's so specific. It's not just, my parents were good. He's like, I learned this from him and that from her.
Yeah, and that's a great prompt for you, listening. Who shaped you? What specific positive things did you consciously pick up from people in your life?
That's a really good exercise. He mentions his great-grandfather pushing for good education, public schools, good tutors at home, and not sweating the cost too much.
Investing in knowledge.
Yeah. And whoever raised him, he thanks them for teaching him not to get obsessed with the circus factions, the blues and the greens, or Persini and Venetti, as he calls them.
The chariot teams. Big deal back then.
Or the gladiators, the parmiluri or secuitors. Basically, don't get swept up in fanatical rivalries.
Good advice for any era, really.
He also learned endurance, needing little, doing things himself, not meddling, and crucially, not automatically believing slander or gossip.
Those sound like foundational skills for just navigating life, especially public life. Keeping your head clear.
Definitely. Then there's Diognetus, who taught him not to waste time on trivial stuff, to be skeptical of, miracle claims and charm.
Right, wonder workers and sorcerers. Don't get caught up in that.
And just to value the simple philosophical life, Diognetus got him reading key thinkers, writing dialogues early on.
So sparking that intellectual curiosity.
Then there was Rusticus, a huge influence, it seems.
Yeah, Rusticus seems key. Marcus says Rusticus made him realize his character needed work. Needed a cure.
Steered him away from just showing off with fancy speeches or focusing on physical strength over inner wisdom.
Right, away from sophistry. Public orations just for show. Rusticus pushed him towards plain writing, like in his letters, being easily reconciled after disagreements.
And reading diligently, especially Epictetus. Rusticus actually gave him his copy of Epictetus's work, the Hypomnemata.
That's a major philosophical connection right there. Epictetus was huge for the Stoics.
And Rusticus also taught him humility, basically, and to forgive easily.
It really shows how a good mentor can help you cut through the noise and focus on what's actually important for your growth.
Totally. And finally, he reflects on what he calls gifts from the gods. Good family, good teachers.
His own constitution, his body's endurance.
Right. Even that his own nature, which he felt leaned towards being rash, was somehow guided away from major mistakes. He mentions things like not being raised by his father's mistress, keeping his youthful integrity.
His father helping him curb his pride, having a brother who inspired him, having good children. It's a real list of gratitude.
Even getting help through dreams, like for health issues.
Yeah.
It's all about acknowledging the good fortune, the support system.
It shows that Stoic emphasis on gratitude, on recognizing you're part of something bigger. And for you, the listener, book one is like a blueprint. Take stock of your influences. What lessons are there? It's powerful for self-awareness.
Okay, so that's how he learned from others. Now let's dig into the core principles he kept reminding himself of. The stuff for self-mastery.
Right, this is the real meat of meditations for many people. You see these themes coming up again and again.
A huge one is time. How precious it is, how limited. He's constantly telling himself, don't put things off, life is short.
Yeah, book two, book three, it's all over the place. And tied to that is focus. Don't waste your time worrying about what other people are doing or thinking.
Unless it's genuinely for the common good, right?
Exactly. Focus on your own mind, your own actions. What's in your control right now?
He even talks about retiring into oneself, like taking a mental break to find some peace and clarity away from all the external noise.
It feels so modern, doesn't it? That need to disconnect and refocus on the present. His advice is like an ancient antidote to our current information overload.
Totally. Another big theme is perspective and acceptance.
He constantly reminds himself the world is always changing. Everything is dissolving, transforming.
Things that seem like a huge deal now, fame, possessions, even hardships, they're temporary, ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme.
So accept what happens, especially the things you can't control. External events can't actually harm your inner self, your mind, unless you let them.
He even says the universe likes change. It delights in it, which is a radical way to think about things we often resist.
It's that core Stoic idea, radical acceptance. Find peace within the impermanence, don't fight it. It lessens the power external things have over your inner state.
Then there's the role of reason, logic.
Absolutely central. Use reason as your guide. Don't act rashly. Don't just follow impulses or emotions. Think things through.
And he connects this to seeing the bigger picture, the interconnectedness of everyone. He talks about the world as a single city.
The cosmopolis. We're all citizens of this world sharing this capacity for reason and understanding. It encourages empathy and rational action.
Which leads right into how we should deal with other people.
Yeah, he has a lot to say about that. Be patient with people's faults. Try to understand why they act the way they do. Often, he thinks, it's out of ignorance, not malice.
Right, they don't understand what's truly good. And that famous line, the best revenge is not to be like the person who wronged you.
Exactly. Don't stoop to their level. Forgive. Pity them almost, rather than getting angry. And if you need to correct someone, do it gently, tactfully.
He really stresses kindness, sociability. We're meant to live in communities.
And doing good, that's its own reward. Don't expect thanks or recognition. Just focus on your own actions. Be virtuous for virtue's sake, regardless of how others react.
That feels incredibly freeing, actually, not being dependent on external validation for doing the right thing.
It really is. It protects your own inner peace.
And that inner peace, cultivating inner goodness, is the final big pillar, isn't it?
Definitely. Nurture that inner self. Fight against negative emotions. Desires what he calls passions or evil affections. Seek contentment within.
Live according to your own nature, your true self. Value your mind, your character above all the external stuff. Keep your mind disciplined, clear.
So Meditations is fundamentally a practical handbook for living well. It's about focusing on your character, your values, how you choose to respond to things.
Okay, so to make this even more real, let's look at some of the specific examples he uses. How did he apply these ideas day to day?
Right, he gives these little vignettes, like he suggests starting your morning by mentally preparing yourself for the difficult people you might encounter.
Ah, yes. Bracing yourself for the obstructive, the treacherous, the envious.
Exactly. Knowing they exist, understanding why they might be that way, helps you deal with them rationally, not just reactively.
He mentions getting elbowed or something at the wrestling school, the palestra, as a reminder not to hold on to petty grievances.
Yeah, let it go. And he brings up the fable, the city mouse, and the country mouse.
To remind himself that true happiness isn't always in luxury or excitement. Simple contentment might be better.
And he reflects on Socrates a lot. Socrates' idea that fearing wrongdoing is worse than fearing death.
And the quiet dignity of the Spartans, the Lacedaemonians at public shows. No big fuss.
These examples just make the philosophy feel more grounded, more lived. You can picture these situations.
He also remembers Socrates saying the worst death is being unable to repay kindness. That's powerful.
It is. And the Pythagorean habit of looking at the stars, literally looking up at the heavens to gain perspective on earthly troubles.
He even gives specific techniques, like if a pleasure seems overwhelming, break it down mentally into its parts. Analyze it. That diminishes its power over you.
It's like cognitive deconstruction. Very practical. And cultivating a readiness to face death calmly without fighting it.
These are all tools, really. Mental exercises for building that stoic resilience, managing desires, keeping perspective.
Exactly. Now, to add another layer to our understanding of Marcus, it's really insightful to look at his relationship with his tutor, Fronto. Their letters survived.
Yes, Marcus Cornelius Fronto. He was a big deal rhetorician back then, and Marcus's teacher. Finding their letters in the 19th century was huge.
It gives us such a different view of Marcus. You see this deep affection, this real human connection between them.
Totally. Despite Marcus being, the emperor and Fronto his former teacher, the letters feel very personal, very warm.
Marcus writes about being worried for his sister and mother, finding a scorpion in his bed, just everyday stuff, while asking about Fronto's health. It makes him seem much more, well, normal.
And he expresses real distress when Fronto is sick and he can't visit. He says he can't even concentrate on writing unless his mind is calm. He clearly misses Fronto.
There's that playful letter where he calls Fronto the winner of their love race. Just shows the closeness.
But Fronto wasn't just showering him with praise, right? He could be critical.
Oh, yeah. He teased Marcus for being too solemn sometimes, or for reading books during shows or dinners, gently but directly.
But he was also fiercely protective if other people criticized Marcus. He said he found it easier to critique Marcus himself than to hear others do it.
That really speaks volumes about their bond. And Fronto clearly felt he played a big role in Marcus's development, teaching him how to express himself truthfully and effectively.
They didn't agree on everything, though. They had different views on Herodes Atticus, another famous intellectual.
Which is important. It shows Marcus wasn't just parroting Fronto. He had his own mind, even within that close mentorship. Critical thinking matters.
And the letters give us these amazing little snapshots of Marcus's daily life. Studying, walking, hunting.
Reading Cato, trying to write, helping with the grape harvest, chatting with his mother, attending sacrifices with his father.
There's that funny story about him scattering some sheep just for fun. Shows a lighter side.
It rounds out the picture. He's not just the Stoic philosopher king. He's also a person with hobbies, family ties, daily routines.
And that trip to Ananya, he gets really into the local history, inspecting old temples, rituals, even their old linen books and dialect. Such intellectual curiosity.
Yes. And his letters show how much he cared about his children, too, worrying about their health, expressing relief when his daughter recovered from illness.
He sounds like a very devoted father.
And his empathy really comes through when Fronto lost his grandson. Marcus's letter of condolence is incredibly heartfelt and understanding.
So, taken together, the letters really show us that even this incredibly powerful emperor valued friendship, mentorship, and that deep intellectual and emotional connection he had with Fronto. It adds another dimension to the man we meet in Meditations.
Absolutely. It reinforces the human side.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, what are the main things we should take away from Meditations and the Fronto letters?
Well, I think both really highlight the power of self-awareness, the importance of reason as a guide, accepting what you can't control, and focusing on virtuous action in your own life. That's the core of Meditations.
And the letters add that dimension of human connection, mentorship, honesty, how important those are for growth, even for an emperor.
Exactly. And the wisdom in Meditations, it really is timeless. It speaks to anyone, anywhere, who's trying to find inner peace and live a more meaningful life. It's remarkably relevant today.
So for you, our listener, wanting that quick but solid understanding, hopefully this deep dive gave you some really useful nuggets to think about.
And it may be a final thought to take with you. Pick just one thing from Marcus Aurelius, maybe an idea, an observation, or practice that really struck you today.
Just one thing.
Yeah. And then think, how could you consciously try to apply that specific thing in your own life this week? Maybe to handle a challenge differently, or just to cultivate a bit more inner calm.
That's a great challenge. And of course, we definitely encourage you to go back to the sources themselves, read Meditations, maybe even track down the letters. There's always more depth there.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.